those of us that are here for a plant lovers tour, I think we're ready to get started with our plant lovers tour. Normally, I like to wait until Marilyn and Janice are here. Marilyn's already here. I'm sure Janice is on her way, but in the meantime, I can welcome you all to the J.C. Raulston Arboretum on this beautiful fall day. We do have a plant lovers tour for you. Our research technician, Tim Alderton here, is going to take us around the Arboretum and show us his fall favorites. And again, like, you couldn't have picked a better day to go for fall favorites. It's like I'm in my flannel. Tim's got short sleeves even. It's comfortable no matter where we are, and the garden is absolutely beautiful right now. So it's going to be super duper. And with that, we can pass things over to Tim to show us his fall favorites.
So we're not going to start in here. There's no fall favorites in this old Zone 8 greenhouse, or that we call this area. So we're going to head down the sidewalk down here, not terribly far. So anyways, our first plant is right in front of us. Does anybody know what it is? Tagetes lucida. What is it? Marigold. It's a type of marigold. It's a perennial marigold. It's from, native for much of Mexico and Central America, but it's been naturalized in a few other places in the South, like Texas and Florida. But it does perfectly well for us here throughout the entire season. It starts to grow fairly early in the spring, and it's just nice and green. And has anybody smelled the foliage on this plant? What's it smell like? Anise or tarragon. Yeah, so it's commonly called Mexican tarragon is here in the United States, but it smells like black licorice, if you like black licorice. And that's one of my favorite things about this plant. As you can see, it gets about, say 2 to 3 feet tall, and it flowers in late October through until hard frost. That is, till we get in probably the mid-20s, we'll have good flowering on this. And because of that, this is one of my favorites. I tend to, if it's still looking nice around Thanksgiving, and I leave to go home, this is a plant that I take a few stems with me back to Pennsylvania, where I'm from, so that I have something to go through the doldrums of being stuck inside a home where it's not quite so pleasant at Thanksgiving as it is down here. And there's not too much flowering, if anything, at all. So one of my favorites here every fall is this Mexican tarragon. And I had a question earlier, how do you propagate this? For me, I don't think I ever get any seed set on this, and it could be that we only have one clone. I don't know if it's self-incompatible, but super easy from cuttings or division in the warmer times of the year. So it is irrigated in this bed, but it doesn't have to be irrigated. It's happily will grow most anywhere in the garden if I plant it there, except for maybe on the roof itself where it is super, super dry. But full sun, and it's just a great one. And again, brush the foliage or caress the plant a little and then smell as we walk here. So any questions about this plant? Okay, hearing none, we are going to go for a bit of a walk. So from here, so we're going to go down this way. So follow me. So it looks like almost everybody's here now. So behind me, that slightly red and orange toned tree behind us is the Parrotia subaequalis. So Parrotia is the more common species is Parrotia persica, which is from Western Asia and maybe venturing into southeastern Europe. This species, on the other hand, is from eastern China, and it's had some identity crisis over the decades. For a long time, it was classified as a hemamelis or a witch hazel, Hemamelis subaequalis, and then also Shaniodendron, which I don't know any other species of Shaniodendron or if that genus still exists. I need to talk to John Grimshaw and see if that's still even in existence. But anyways, this is one that commonly became available in about 1992. Actually, it finally got to Parrotia in around 1992 when they decided it was actually really closely related to like Parrotia persica and not to our witch hazels. It does flower in late winter. The flowers are apetalous. They just dangle. They're kind of cool. They blow in the wind. The flowers look like that. This is a much smaller tree typically than that of Parrotia persica. It only gets to about 20 to 30 feet. So, and that's an old plant if it's that big in the wild even. But spectacular for fall foliage is why we were here today. And I think it was on Woodlander's website, it sometimes started coloring up as early as late September. And I will say it does start to color early, and it can go for up to about 2 months with good color. It is about peak right now. So this is the perfect week to see it. It may go for another week or two before it starts to really shed its leaves. But with the sun blazing on that right now against that spectacular blue sky we have, perfect time to see it. It's fairly hardy. It says zone 6 to even maybe zone 5. I haven't tried. I should propagate one and take one home to Western Pennsylvania and see if it grows up there. I haven't done that yet. But we got this, I believe, in 2006 or 2007. It's a hardy plant because I tortured it in our nursery. I let it dry out a couple times in the pot when it was only about a gallon or two size, and it managed to survive. It got planted here in 2009 whenever we did the planting here in the Asian Valley. And it's been there ever since, and it has been spectacular. It is actually fairly easy to root, or it was a few years ago. I've rooted a bunch of them. I need to do it again. And Parrotias in general have been somewhat easy to root, unlike their cousins, the Hemamelis, which are a bit more challenging to do that with. But again, just a spectacular fall foliage plant for us here. So Parrotia subaequalis. Any questions? The question was, what time of year can you try to root it? I'd say for us, if I've done it in late May, early June, which is when we do a lot of our propagation here. So soft to semi-hardwood is probably the best one to try. Any other questions? Oh, the tree beside it. What is the tree beside it? That is a cross between a citrus paradisi and citrus trifoliata, and it's a selection called Dunstan. Like I said, it's citrus paradisi is a grapefruit. So it's a grapefruit crossed with a hardy orange. It has a really bitter aftertaste to anything you eat with that, but it has a really oily rind, very thick. It is starting to drop its fruit right now, and it will drop for the next month or so until they're all over the ground. The volunteers who take care of the area are the Valley girls. They just love to see them disappear because we literally take out loads of fruit in trailers and they pick them up for me. So I won't object if some just disappear. Yes. The note was that from Maryland that some of my interns told her that they make great mojitos. I don't know. I don't drink. So I do know I tried to marinate a piece of salmon in it one time, and I kind of ruined it. It is a little bit too bitter for me. It takes after the grapefruit. I'm not a big grapefruit person, but it's even more bitter than a standard grapefruit. So, okay. Any other questions? Okay, we're going to go to the plant that's going to meet its demise, and you'll see why. We're going to talk about this little clump here. So most everybody here now, Blake?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, we're here at the Phyllostatia nigra, which is our black bamboo, and I am so happy it's flowering. I've been fighting this plant for decades, so it's encased in here in concrete, but it escapes that concrete and it comes up, it'll take 15, 20 feet a year if it can. So I don't like running bamboos, and well, what happens to the Phyllostatia does anybody know what happens when they flower? Yes, they die. And so I did a little bit of research on it, and since about 2020, they've been seeing some of the black bamboos, which are probably mostly the same clone, from what I understand, flowering. And when when they flower, they die.
What's the flower look like?
Oh, it's in full flower right here. So anyways, what I found out was, in general, Phyllostatia nigra typically flowers every 40 to 120 years. And it's been so the last time that there was a major flowering was in 1908. So they were expecting it to flower sometime in the 2020s. And this clone is probably one that came out of Japan, but the species is native to Yunnan province of China.
Does it regenerate with the flowering?
That's the thing.
Have it everywhere.
That's the thing. Apparently, these black bamboos have not been producing much, if any, seed. So we might lose most of the black bamboos, but they did say that occasionally there might be a piece of the rhizome deep down that after a few years resprouts. But the general, like whole forest ecosystems go they die. But yeah, for us here, I wouldn't be buying black bamboo right now. I might put a clumping bamboo back in its place. A Fargesia or a Bambusa would be what I would.
With a liner?
No, those I don't need to put a liner in for. They're non-running species. So that's what I would recommend. Other parts of the United States where it's like the Western United States, actually these running bamboos aren't much of a problem. But for us here in the Southeast, where we have lots of moisture and fairly rich soils, they tend to run excessively. But if in the West, where the water is more of a limiting factor, they tend to stay where they're put unless you water them. So they're less of an issue out there. But yeah, so this one, it's flowering, and the whole thing is flowering right now. So chances are this is going to be gone. So a golden bamboo will do the same thing. There was a big patch, I don't know which species, but at the west side of the Arboretum, there had been a patch that had been going back and forth between the adjacent property and our property. I've been trying to keep it off our property, but it flowered a year and a half ago, and it's now dead. And it was stuff that had 2 to 3 inch columns diameter. So it was big. And actually, I didn't put how tall this can get 30, 40 feet tall too, but in our little contained patch here, it would never do that. But I also had a speaker here from the Rock Garden Society less than a month ago. She was visiting from England, and she says, you know, that stuff, it goes for a couple hundred or 150 pounds or so for just a few stems in England to buy a plant. So it's like, yeah, we've had them here to sell before, and it's like I don't like them. So you couldn't pay me you'd actually have to pay me the $120 to take it. Yeah. But anyways, because I've had to dig it out so many times. But anyways, yeah. So this is the last time maybe you'll get to see this one. So it's its last fall. Its downfall is that it's monocarpic, and most of the bamboos are monocarpic. So and whole clones will flower all at the same time.
Are the blacks the only type that flower?
No.
Do they all?
Almost. Some of them will survive flowering, but not a lot of them are truly monocarpic. Any questions here before we head to? We're going to get crowded in the next one. I will say that, but we'll get you all to see the next plant. Yep, our next plant, if you can see it, is right at my side here. This is Galanthus reginae Olga. So it's one of the earliest, or kind of one of the later flowering, depending how you look at it, Galanthus. So it flowers typically in October into November for us here. So it started popping up about a month ago, and it's at its peak right now. And it'll go for another week or so before it starts to die down. So this is a species that's native from Sicily and west and northwest Balkans. So Bosnia-Herzegovina area, that area, parts of former Greece, Yugoslavia is where you would find these growing. It's named after Queen Olga Konstantinova of Russia, when she was also the Queen of Greece. So it's been around for a while, but this is, like I said, this is the first, or it's not the latest flowering one we have of Galanthus in the garden. But so if you walk in the white garden right now and look under the Japanese maple, our little 115, 120-year-old Japanese maple in there, there's a bunch of Galanthus in there, which there's actually a patch already in flower in there, and it's probably Galanthus alvesii montistictus. It's a little bit later than this species, so.
You'd want to plant it in the shade?
I mean, the great thing about Galanthus is they're winter active. So deciduous shade is fine and dandy, or sun. They're summer dormant. So they don't care so much about the summer light. It's the winter light. So you can have winter shade or winter sun, summer shade, and they're fine and dandy. They are closely related to, they're in the Emeraldidaceae. They're not eaten by any critters, which is a great thing about that. So yeah, the voles don't touch them typically. Deer don't, I mean, they might nibble on them just to taste it and realize, no, I don't like that, and spit it out. But they're typically not going to kill it. Just like a daffodil. They're closely related to daffodils. So this is the first, though, of our Galanthus that we'll have for the cool season of the now. And we'll have Galanthus going into at least March. So, but this is the early one. I mentioned if you bought them in the green, green, which is the ideal way to do galanthus. So you can buy dry bulbs. If you do, buy lots of them because only a fraction of them will grow. If you get a few started, you typically get a nice colony. When you buy them in the green, they're actively growing, and you're assured that it's actually going to grow and not just a dehydrated bulb that's never going to do anything.
Do they stay as a clump, or do they start spreading out
So,
on their own?
The individual bulbs, yes, will clonally propagate into a clump. If you get enough of them around and you don't deadhead them, you can get self-sowing. And that has been, like in Europe, there's the galanthophiles, and it's almost worse than tulip people from the tulip mania. They will literally pay thousands of dollars for one bulb that has a unique characteristic. And that typically occurs due to one of those self-sown seedlings that occur under some of them. I do not worry about it here in the garden. I am getting self-sowing in our white garden colony of Alesii, since we have several different forms in there. I have fall flowering ones, and then I have some that flower throughout as late as March. So I get flowers of Alesii from late October till March, early March. So it just depends on the individual strain that's growing in there, and they're going about. And I saw one of the fall flowering ones. I know there was nothing planted there, and it is now flowering 15 feet away from one of the other established clumps over there. So, okay, so the question was, where's the best place to buy them locally? The place, if you want to get them in the green, is Nancy Goodwin at Montrose when she has an open garden. That's probably your best bet if you're going to get them in the green. You can find just the general bulbs dry at a lot of your garden centers, but like I said, buy extra because a percentage of those are probably not going to grow. And just taking that into account. For instance, I have a Galanthus Alesii variety. I want to stick this. It's just pushing up down at the McSwain Center, which I got from Nancy Goodwin, I think in 2009 or 10. And I bought one bulb for $10. I now have a clump, a foot and a half across. And I could make it more by division, but you get, like I said, you're going to buy those dry ones. You might say there's 10 bulbs in the pack. You might only get 2 that grow. And you spent $5 to $10 on that. So there you go. It's about the equivalent. You can't get every cultivar, especially here in the United States. We don't have ready access to them, especially in the green. Another person who's not necessarily local, but he does show up at Pine Knot Farms is John Longsdale, and he is a galanthophile. He's a British fellow who moved to the United States down around Philadelphia, and he does cyclamen and galanthus and has some of the most extraordinary ones you're going to find. But you can only get them at open houses or when he's sort of traveling. So the question is, what's planted here whenever these are gone? Well, I have an impatient Omiana here that was planted way over there, and it's come over here. And it goes summer dormant too at times. It's actually, there's a flower right here, or partial one. But anyways, so yeah. You can have a deciduous ground cover, or herbaceous perennials are great to plant around them, or plant the galanthus around that are not going to be there when they're in active growth in the winter. And so that you can have them as a filler. They're also great to plant next to tree trunks and things where some other things won't grow, and that are going to get winter sun and then summer shade. So, okay, any other questions before we wander on to the next one? Okay, hearing none, we're going to go to a traffic island. So anyways, our next plant here is a Butylon traffic island. I don't know a whole lot about this plant, but I do adore it. We got this several years ago from the Atlanta Botanic Garden. I planted one late in the season, and it didn't look quite like that, but it did survive. But this is one that was planted in the spring a couple years ago. And we have another one right there. I have it in the perennial border. We have this out at the street. So next to the traffic island-esque idea. It's a very resilient plant, but and it flowers, say late March, if it doesn't get cut the whole way back to the ground. If we have, but this one didn't die back the whole way anyways, but right now it is just on fire on the flowers right now. If you look at them, these gorgeous orange flowers, and orange and red. It has less Butylon megapetonicum in it and more pictum, which is where some of the larger flowered ones are that have a lot of veining in them. So it has this, it's fiery. It's perfect for Thanksgiving and Halloween. And it has a black calyx, which is the other thing. So it's just perfect for this time of the year. Butylons in general flower for so long for us. Like I said, if we have a mild winter, they will start flowering in the spring and they will go the whole way through until we get back down into the teens again. They are some of the, as far as I'm concerned, some of the longest flowering sub-shrubs that we have here, perennials or subshrubs. Like I said, if we have a hard winter, they can get killed to the ground, but they typically hold some wood, and so it's a sub-shrub for us. So I was reading online, the one reference I did find to this, they said they got it from Atlanta, which is the same place we got ours, was Atlanta Botanic Garden, and it theoretically, I don't know if it's in general for Butylon or what, it didn't say, but they said 15 to 20 feet, and it's like not in our climate, so I'd say 5 to 6 is what we're gonna get here, but you can't go wrong with these. We have a lot of other Butylons we've been collecting in the garden now, but this is one that's really appropriate for this time of the year with these the autumnal colors that it has. So that's why I chose this as one of my fall favorites. So the question was, where are Butylons native? So the ones that we are growing as garden plants anyways are mostly Central and South American, and they may be splitting them into or lumping them, however you want to look at it, into a new must be splitting into a new genera, the ones like this. I think it's Calanthes, not like the orchid, but it's a slightly different spelling. And you'll see it under that name as well as a Butylon. I still am sticking with a Butylon. I have seen some other plants that used to be Butylons that are as well. But like I said, mostly Central and South America is where our really garden worthy ones are from. There's a bunch that we can't grow or ones that you don't want to grow, like a Butylon theophrasti is a velvet leaf and is a agricultural weed. So it's an annual, has big soft velvety leaves and a small yellow flower. And, but anyways, this one is not like that. I occasionally get some seedlings on some of my other Butylons when I grow them fairly close together, but when they're alone, they are well behaved. Where am I going next? I have to look. Oh, we're going over this direction. We're gonna go to the White Garden. So it looks like we have a quorum here now. Behind me is Aesculus parviflora variety serotina. So it's a form of our native bottle brush buckeye. And just right now, I had to come here because it beautiful yellow foliage on it. The Aesculus parvifloras are, I guess, mid-sized spreading shrubs. They get 8-10 feet tall. They can get a little taller than that probably long-term, but they're suckering, but not in a weedy way from the base. They do need a wide space to put them. That is one thing that's a prerequisite for them. They don't want you don't put them along a wall that has a 3-foot pathway, or that is a 3-foot thing here. It needs 15, 20 feet to grow because it is very wide. But right now at this time of the year, it's a great understory, bright yellow autumn color is why I'm selecting it here for a fall favorite. It does flower in about June. You can still see some of the remnants, and I'm knocking the leaves off. There were more leaves on this yesterday whenever I was making my list. So anyways, just a great native understory plant. It's drought tolerant. It's native to the southeast. Whenever it's in flower, the swallowtail butterflies adore them. So it's just an all-round great plant to include in your landscape if you have the space. You don't need height, like I said, but you do need width. But just one I wanted to highlight today. A lot of Aesculus are fairly early to just drop their leaves. So yeah, the remark is there's actually a lot of variation in this species. And even if you buy one of these, you don't know what the seed provenance is. And I have a feeling that maybe they got their seed lots from multiple places. And that could attribute also for the difference in flowering time on them, as well as the time when they drop their leaves in the fall. And an honorable mention while we're here is Fothergilla Mount Airy, which is just spectacular over here. There's a Mount Airy, I think, right behind Trish, but that one doesn't look like much right now. But that one is just glowing on my left side. So Okay, the question is, will Ohio or Texas Buckeyes grow here? Yes, both of those will do fairly well here. The ones that don't do well are the European horse chestnuts. The straight hippocastinums are not happy here, but the hybrids between Carnea, the red Buckeye, and hippocastinum are fine and dandy for us here. They tend to go dormant fairly early in the season. They will go, as well as Pavia, the red Buckeye, they will lose their leaves August sometimes, or even early September. We have a western species, and I'm just blanking on its name now. Is it Aesculus californica? It typically is dormant by July. So there's a lot of variation within the genus too. So some of the Asian Buckeyes, like we used to have a japonica in the east, it would hold its leaves right till fall frost, and it would look great. But a lot of them get foliar issues, even on our native ones, and drop their leaves early. So, but that one was good. I see some questions back in here. Right behind me, Trish is pointing to another Butylon. Yes, that is one. It's a pure white one called Wyncliffe White. That's from Dan Hinckley's garden. I brought that one back in 2000. Let me think. 22 from Washington. I also have another one over there of that same one, and there's a couple different selections from Dan's outside just in the perennial border over here. They have not been as top hardy. Especially the white one is probably the least top hardy for me, but it is the most vigorous. So it recovers just fine and dandy and gets taller than the others. But so yes, some other great Butylons to be growing. And while we're also here, if you look back at the northwest corner underneath the Japanese maple here, you'll see some more Galanthus. There's a big clump back there, and that's the Galanthus monostictus elwesii. So we covered a whole lot of stuff here and recovered. So, okay, Maryland attests that Buckeyes are, so our Aesculus are deer resistant, which is a wonderful thing here when we have overpopulation. So, okay, so we are going to venture to the perennial border now. So it looks like everybody's here now. Our next one on our list is Salvia puberula El Boitano. This is one of the Mexican species of sages, and this one doesn't flower until October, November. So this isn't one of our salvias that flowers the entire season. It is one that it saves its show for the fall and only the fall. We did a little fun with this one this year. Can you tell this part was trimmed? And that's the height without trimming. So we got about, what is that, 6.5 feet tall, maybe right there on the back. And we cut this back in June, I think, or was it late May? One or the other. And you may have gotten a plant of this in the giveaway. I think we had it in the giveaway, or bought it at the plant cart, or actually the plant stand. It's not a cart anymore. But anyways, this is a super easy one for us to propagate, but it's fun. We have to be, we've decided not to bring the cuttings into the building. It's very pungent, especially in the summer. And what did you describe it as last week?
Sophia described it as burnt cucumbers.
Yeah, it smells burnt, I'll tell you that. It's just really pungent, and I've brought it in a cooler, and you could smell it in the staff building, even with the cooler closed. But super easy to propagate, but you have to come forward once I get out of here and look at the intricacy, I can't spit that, how intricate the flowers are in these. They're fuzzy to add to that spectacular hot pink or fuchsia colors that you get here. This is one I think should be fairly deer resistant, unless that deer has a really bad sense of taste and smell, because they are gonna find it really unpalatable because of that pungency to it. But it's a full sun to part shade plant. It is a bit thirstier too than a lot of my other salvias. Like I have Salvia greggii and microphyllus in the border here, and they don't care so much about water. They will wilt if it gets real dry. That actually, San Carlos Festival was wilted last week before the rain, and this was too. But In the summer, this really can sulk a bit. So you do need to give it a spot that does get some supplemental water if we do have drought, or partial shade. It is, also compensates for that. So, but a great fall display on this one. And this is just getting started because up there's been flowering for longer than down here. This is just in the last week that this part has opened, partly due to I gave it that Chelsea chop to do some cuttings of it. So anyways, just a really cool Mexican sage. And let's see, what else did I have about this one? Oh, this selection was a selection that John Ferry and Carl Schoenfeld of Yucadú, the former Yucadú nursery in Texas, had collected in Nuevo Leon, Mexico, at an elevation of 7,000 feet. So not all forms of pubarula are equally as hardy, and this is one that's considered a little bit extra hardy because of that elevation that it's from. So anyways, those are some of my remarks about this plant. So the question was, how many weeks do you think I think it delayed blooming by cutting it back? It actually, which I was surprised, it was probably about 2 weeks. And I didn't think, being that it doesn't set bud until so late, that it would be delayed at all. But it was actually delayed, but it gave me a much more compact plant. And because that is so tall and floppy and back there. So
Will it bloom till frost?
yes, so it might. The forecast I saw is there. I saw 30 or 31 on Monday night next week. So it might not make it past that. We'll find out. That's on the edge. Next week we'll know, and it depends if our the weather might. Let's hope the weather improves a little. I'd like it to hold off till just before I go home for Thanksgiving. Yeah, just for my own sanity. Any other questions? Okay, we're just going to go a little bit further down the border then. My next plant, as you will look if you're following down on your list there, is Hibiscus Holly Springs. I know Edith Edelman gave this to us in 1999, I believe, as a cutting, yes. And I don't know much beyond that. But this is one I have really enjoyed over the years, and it's because of the stems. You don't think of a hibiscus growing it for its stems, but in the fall, the stems on this one are always spectacular red. What I can tell you about it from what I've seen over the years is this is either a selection of Hibiscus coccineus or a hybrid of that includes a whole lot of coccineus. The Texas Star Hibiscus, I guess, is one of the common names for it. But like I said, it just has the simple red, relatively smaller flowered red flowers in the summer. But then, as the leaves drop, it exposes the beautiful red stems on this, and especially when the light from the south is on it. I've only ever grown it in this spot, so I can't say if it will do this in a little bit shadier spot, but my suggestion would be grow it in as much sun as you can. We have distributed this a few times over the decades. I need to do it again, maybe do some propagating next year on this one, but I think this is as good as a red twig dogwood right now, or a Acer palmatum sangukaku, something like that, one of the red Japanese maples. But I think it's just spectacular here, hiding among other stuff in here with the erythrina next to me over here with that spectacular green foliage, or crisp green foliage, and then having the red stems here. It's just great. So the question is, are these easily propagated? So hibiscus, our native hibiscus, are fairly easy to propagate. This would have to be by cuttings because to make it clonal, it's a named one. The key thing when you do hibiscus, though, from cuttings is you need to have at least 1 or 2 nodes below the ground level on our herbaceous hibiscus. They will root readily typically, but if you don't have a node below the ground, it'll die to the ground and there'll be nothing to come back up. That's the only key thing to know about them. So the question, I guess I should say, was how long does the color hold? And I'd say a month or 2 until it gets real cold. But it may depend also on the temperature. Say if we would get a quick freeze drying into the teens, it would probably wipe it out, or even the low 20s. But if we have moderate temperatures into, for a month or so, it should hold some of this color. Okay, let's see, where am I going next? Okay, I know where I'm going. So the next plant here is a Jannia pacifica, or if you want to lump it, a Chrysanthemum pacificum. This has been a long favorite of mine. I remember I ordered from Logi's greenhouse, I'd say in the early 90s, when I was probably 12 or 13, maybe 15 at most. And anyways, and I ordered one of these, and I had it. It was marginal for me in Western Pennsylvania, but down here it's die hard. Doesn't have any issues. But I love this plant. If you get up close to it, you will see that the undersides of the leaves are silver. And that silver wraps up around the edge of the leaf. So the top surface is green, and you just see the touch of silver on there, on this. And so the whole summer and fall, the whole summer, it has that beautiful foliage, and then in the fall, it flowers. And the flowers are apetalous. So there's no big petals. It's not spectacular in that sense, but it has big clusters of the compound capitulums that you get on mums without petals though. So anyways, this is just one of my favorites here. It's a low, it only maybe, there's a taller one over here and over there. It might get 12 to 15 inches tall. And when they're really happy, they will form a ground cover. They'll spread out 3 or 4 feet. Over time, just like a lot of other mums. And you can see the basal rosettes here. These will be for next year probably. Those will look nice for most of the winter as long as we don't get terribly cold. But love that flowers at this time of the year against that green and silver. So you get the green, silver, and yellow on those all at once. And again, this is a great cut flower. You can put it in an arrangement just like any chrysanthemum. So it's a good one for Thanksgiving again, most years, or just any thing to spruce up or filler in an arrangement. And then the rest of the season, if you want to take a few stems, it's also great as just a foliar filler as well. So this is an all-around favorite of mine. And like I said, I've loved this plant for decades now. So yeah, for let's say over about 30 years. Over 30 years. So anyways, one to add to your collection if you haven't. It does, up on the roof, I have it planted, and the bees have made some hybrids. It readily crosses with chrysanthemum. And so I have some that have really, really short petals, and the foliage is still silver on them. And then there's some that are almost back to a chrysanthemum look, which they have almost the full-size petals. And there's some pink shades as well up there. I don't like them as much. I need to pull them out, but the one that's has just short petals I think is kind of cute. So they are a little promiscuous if you get them too close to some of their cousins. They will inbreed or interbreed. So anyways, just a fun one to have and incorporate into your landscape. Any questions about Agania pacifica? So yes, the question is, when it dies back, how far do you cut it back? And basically, yeah, I will leave these up for quite a while. It just depends on how bad it looks in this winter, and it all depends on our weather. If we have a mild winter, it can look fairly decent, but you can always clean it up, and then the new shoots, like on any mum, will come up from the base and look so much fresher. And it will go to seed if you do leave it. Really nice with a hoarfrost on it. The seed heads on a lot of your asteraceous stuff through the winter months. So that could be another reason to leave it. And I don't know if you can see some of there's honeybees on here. There's also small flies and other solitary bees on here. So this is a great pollinator plant too for the late season. Marilyn made the remark that this has been very deer resistant for her. So that is another great one to hear about around here. So cool. So we're not going to go terribly far for this next one, but we're going to have to squeeze in a little bit. So it's Salvia regla Hame. So this is another of the Mexican sages. There's hundreds of Mexican sages, I think. And this is very different. It's not Salvia leucantha, which is what everyone calls Mexican sage, or Salvia puberula, which we just saw a few minutes ago. This is a different one, and it's totally different in habit and different in color. This is a true shrubby sage. This will get 4 to 6 feet tall, and it's woody, and it doesn't die back in our winters here most years unless we have a really hard winter. Puberula, which we saw just a few minutes ago, dies to the ground for us here, but where it's native is actually semi-evergreen to evergreen from what I understand. But this one is deciduous, even where it's native. And it ranges, let's see, through much of Mexico and I think it goes up into West Texas, into the Chisos Mountains too. And it flowers in the late summer and fall, so October to frost typically. And I think this also corresponds with the the migration of a lot of our the hummingbird species, and that's why a lot of things flower in the Texas northern Mexico area as the hummingbird species are being funneled down through there and their migration south through the for the cool months of the year to spend the winters in warmer spots. And I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know that it's not ideal for monarch butterflies, but it probably feeds a bunch of monarchs too. But this one is one of those orange-red ones, so that's why I associate it with hummingbirds being the primary pollinator of them. But again, it is a true shrub, and it is it leaves out late too. So you think is that dead or alive? Should I cut it back? No, wait until late May, mid to late May. It starts to leaf out finally, and then it grows through the summer. And this was moved. This was in the old butterfly garden, which is now the South American garden, and so we couldn't leave it in there since it's from central or northern Latin America and Mexico. It's not from South America, so we brought it out of there, and I stuffed it over here, and I forgot I put it here, to tell you the truth. But I love this plant, and just because of the late season color, and it is so vibrant. There's only a couple forms that are available of this. You'll see another one called Quarto form, which we have in the southwest, or in the Scree or Zeri part of the garden as well. But this was on our way today, so I thought this is perfect time to highlight it. But this is a selection that was collected by Dr. Richard Dufresne, who was a local, let's see, was he a chemist? Yes, he was a chemist, but he was also fanatic about salvias and close relatives. If anybody who was in our rock garden chapter, you knew that. Richard passed away over COVID, but anyways, he left us with some really cool salvias over the decades, and this is one of them. And he collected this in Jame, J-A-M-E, Coahuila, I can't spit that out, C-O-A-H-U-I-L-A, Coahuila, Mexico. Anyways, so it's just been a really good form for us and adds a pop of color at this time of the year that I just love. So any questions about Salvia regla Jame? Okay, hearing none, we're gonna head on to our last two. Okay, I think I'm gonna get started. This one, what is this one?
Acer.
Japonicum Isami. This is one of the Japanese maples. There's two main genera of species, I should say, of Japanese maples, palmatum and Japonicums. But there's some other species as well that would be considered in that group. But this is one we often see, aconitifolium, which is a cut-leafed one of this species. But this is one of the undivided leafed ones, or less divided. It still has the lobing, but it's more than normal. It gets quite large leaves. Oasami is known for having 4 to 6 inch leaves. If you go to the Pacific Northwest, that's where they get 6 and sometimes even bigger than that leaves, to tell you the truth. But regardless, the fall color on this is spectacular at this time of the year. And because the leaf is larger than a lot of the other forms that we typically grow around here, the colors are so much more vibrant as far as I'm concerned. So I wanted to highlight this. It's really taken off because I took some scion wood off this in the winter. It's grown about 3 or 4 feet up there. So long term, or short term, I should say, in about the 10-year range, it gets about 10 feet tall and maybe about a 6-foot wide canopy. But long term, these can get up to 25 to 30 feet tall. So it's one that does need a little bit of space. And I'm thinking maybe next year I need to pull off that branch right there. I've been looking at the Acer palmatum that is an unnamed selection that everybody's standing underneath here, and maybe give it a little bit of trimming so that this maple can be better appreciated. But for this year, this is just spectacular with its orange and yellow and red fall foliage on it. And anyway, it's just a wonderful selection of Acer Japonicum Oasami. I do like the Japonicums though, just because of it's a little bit coarser look than the palmatums, which tend to be rather fine in leaf form. As you look straight up, that's your traditional red-leafed Japanese maple above you. It's a palmatum, just Atropurpureum group. So this gives a totally different look to me than a palmatum, and it's a nice change. You're ready for the last plant? Is that what you said? Okay, we're gonna go. I'm caught. The maple didn't want to go. Let me go to its cousin. Okay, it looks like most everybody's here now. We're at our last plant, and it's another maple. So this is Acer saccharum, our sugar maple. But this is a selection called Reba, and the trade name for this one is Bell Tower. And it must not be patented because it's wild collected, which is really cool. So this was found growing in southern Tennessee. So in the southern range, roughly, or more or less, of Acer saccharum, or the sugar maple. So it's known for having fairly good heat tolerance for a sugar maple. And what else do you notice about this thing? Its shape. It's very upright. It's not broad spreading like so many, the typical sugar maple. So, and it was found, like I said, growing in the wild. That's what it was selected for. And it's not at peak color yet. So this is one to come back for in the next probably week or two to see how the color changes on this. I expect it to be much more vibrant. And on the south side, it's already more vibrant, but on the north side, it should change. And the nice thing about this one is, since we don't have the holly hedge here anymore, you can see it from the perennial border. I thought about pointing to it from over there earlier, but I waited until the very end. But this is just a quintessential, a sugar maple for us down here that has like I said, has a little bit better heat tolerance. And being that it is upright, it may fit into a landscape a little bit better than, again, this traditional broad spreading maple with this more upright, almost fastigiate habit that Reba has here. So. And supposedly about 45 feet tall and 18 feet wide. So how does that look? Does that look about right? Because we planted this in 2009 is when this was put here. So it has about 16 years in this location, and it was probably 5 or 6 feet tall when we planted it. So I think that's a good measure, and it's probably, what do you say, about 35 to 40 feet already? So it has a little bit time to mature yet, but it is holding its own on that structure. So this is one to squeeze into your landscape because of, again, like I said, its heat tolerance, as well as it's a little bit easier to fit in because of its shape. Any questions about Reba? So the question is, does Reba not get that black stuff on the trunk? So what a lot of times we get on our trunks of our maples in this area, it's sooty mold growing because of scale insects, gloomy scale. And a lot of that comes from how we plant them and where we plant them. We've had one of our entomologists here at NC State has spoke a couple times while I've been here. And basically, don't put a maple, a red or a sugar maple or a Freeman maple anywhere near a paved surface, whether it's a driveway, a street, or a sidewalk even. That reflected heat is a wonderful microclimate for the gloomy scale, and you get heavy infestations of gloomy scale. And it's not detrimental to the tree, but it makes things look ugly. And that's why you see all of these allays of sugar maple. Actually, if you go on the streets behind the Arboretum, there's some really nice sugar maples, but they all have that, and it's due to where we're planting them. Put them in the backyard. Don't put them in the front yard. Put them far away from those heat sinks, and you'll probably have a better luck, and you won't get that ugliness. Don't use them like we traditionally did up north and still do up north, where they're used as street trees, and that's what we've used them so often for. With that gloomy scale, it just loves that the conditions there, and that's why you get that ugliness of the black on them.
What was the bell tower that you put next to them?
Oh, the trade name is Bell Tower. So it's a trade name, so it's a TM. It's not patented because shouldn't be patented because it was wild collected, and so I'm assuming they put a trade name on it instead. Okay. I guess hearing no more questions, that's the end of the tour for today. I hope I maybe showed you a few things that are fall favorites as well for you. So